Well, hello there. Thanks for checking out this World of Tanks video, and thanks for playing World of Tanks. Here in the US Tier 8 Premium Light Tank Falcon T92 with a bunch of Tier 9 and Tier 10 vehicles in the match also. Moving forward onto the center of this ridge line area, kind of the high point of the map, right in the center, and just kind of trying to keep track of maybe some of these enemies up here that my allies might be able to get a shot at early on. Some of what we're going to focus on with this video is generally thinking about using the map and what that might entail, what all might be available to us as we, especially in a light tank or maybe a mobile medium tank, but any tank that has an engine and tracks and moves, what that might mean to have the map available. I do like to spot out here when I play the north spawn. I do like to spot this basin out here. It's kind of a nice low point out to about G2, and then you've got high points all around you, so it's pretty well protected. A lot of enemy players will get out to like that H1 and J2 area. It's kind of a high point down there, and perch up and try to maybe snipe, otherwise spot. And as you can see, that French Super Sherman Tier 8 got single shotted by the FV 4005 we have at B2. Anyway, so I'm just kind of cruising this area. We don't, really have anybody else out here, which is probably fine. The enemy team has a whole bunch of heavies in the town, and so we have a whole bunch of heavies and destroyers playing the town, and some mediums covering the middle. And here I am just keeping an eye out on that one line, which is kind of a concealed or covered part of the map. It's kind of easy to avoid spotting it, and therefore easy for like your enemies. Sometimes maybe your allies would want to make use of it, depending on which team you're on, but it's one of those areas of the map that's kind of concealed and separated from the rest of the map, and can be an opportunity for sneaking around behind the enemy vehicles. So spotted and targeted here, and using that map feature, that kind of destroyed tank map feature that doesn't move, kind of using that for some cover, and just running around here and trying to spot up for that destroyer and maybe that medium that comes over here from time to time. But yeah, I mean, there's only two of us basically covering this flank, and so it's important that we keep an eye on things out here. Trying to stay involved, trying to see if I can get any shots here and there, and also kind of give the enemy players a sense that I'm heading into town or something like that. And yeah, I'm recognizing again we have very few vehicles out in the far west portion of the map, so I'm gonna head back out there, light some guys back up, and yep, just cover the map at this point. I have a bunch of destroyers back there, so it is actually kind of important that we keep an eye on those guys and try at least a little bit to keep them more or less at bay. Again, using these low areas, using my mobility, I don't really do a lot of stopping here early on. Just staying mobile, making sure that I'm a difficult target to hit when I do get lit up, when I do get targeted up. Generally speaking, do my best to drive away from the enemies. Do my best to prevent them from having easy or obvious shots on me. And my destroyer buddy at B2 got himself shot up, trying to get away from those enemies. They had me lit up that Vanguard has got me lit up, and those destroyers back there having some shots at me as well as that Vanguard. So now I'm just driving away, kind of using the terrain to stay low, staying below that horizon line, if you will, keeping ground between me and my enemies. At the same time, I want to keep an eye on their movements for my teammates in case they're pushing up toward our capture point or something like that. That Vanguard there hits me from behind. You can see that that Vanguard is probably at about a 3 or 4 right now. And suddenly I have very few hit points. Other than maybe the Vanguard, I'm pretty much a one-shot for any of the enemy vehicles. I'm getting into town, getting into cover, getting away from those enemies that were shooting at me. Sometimes you just gotta give up some territory if that's what it takes to stay alive. And here all of a sudden I've pretty much gone to the opposite corner of the map, more or less, using some of the cover of the town area, using some of the like the presence of my allies for some protection. Also getting away from that Vanguard. That Vanguard was the primary source of my getting shot there. It was that Vanguard who was lighting me up for the enemies to shoot me. And now I'm way back at the other end of the map, because sometimes that's what it takes. Gonna see if any of these enemies are vulnerable to my position. Thinking about taking a shot if it makes sense to do so. And there are a lot of good players in this match, it looks like. Those enemies, generally speaking, do not leave themselves very vulnerable. Making sure that they're using the low points in the terrain to keep their vehicles mostly or almost entirely hidden. And so at this point I'm kind of coming around behind, and you can see that the rest of our team is also kind of rotating around on the map. I'm gonna come around here, get myself up into a kind of a high perch position with a nice leafy bush in front of me, and see if I have an opportunity to take some shots. I'll get a light tank with some strong concealment. I've got the camouflage skill for my crew, which applies to the entire crew. And I'm lighting up that destroyer who's up there at like D1, while I take some shots at these medium tanks while remaining undetected myself. And that's the power of taking shots on the enemy vehicles without them being able to detect you. Presents very little danger to you and quite a bit of danger, at least potentially, to the enemy team. Alright, so we're trying to track down that Vanguard. He had was up in the north and had taken out our artillery piece a while back. It's down to 7 seconds on the capture with our 2 vehicles, down to about 3 here. One of them hops out, giving us about an extra 25 seconds to locate and hunt down this light tank. He detects me here. I think he actually ended up making it down to probably about the F0 area, is my guess. I don't think he's up in the north looking back at this, how things went here. It doesn't seem like that heavy ally of mine around D4 was being spotted up. I don't know. I think that if he had been spotted up, he would have gone toward the enemy position rather than going away from it. So I think that enemy vehicle had made it down into the buildings of the town. Anyway, kind of a fun match. driving around in a light tank, spotting up some enemies, and then finding myself in a horribly vulnerable way with my only ally on that western flank, that destroyer, being eliminated. The enemies finding themselves with an opportunity to push north into my position, and so I had to vacate the area and rotated around, basically back into the spot that they had been at before, and used that location to my advantage to get some helpful shots on the enemy team toward the end of the match. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Do you like the Falcon tank? Do you like playing Fisherman's Bay? How do you play Fisherman's Bay? What might I have done differently in this match? Anyway, thanks for taking a look at this World of Tanks video, and thanks for playing World of Tanks.